It's been a while since the last PS1 game I couldn't beat as a kid, but I'm coming back to years later. I don't even remember getting Apocalypse. I think my uncle must have got me it with two other copied games at the same time, and I was more distracted by one of the others. But I did play this a decent amount, but never got past the second level back then. The main draw this game had back then is that it stars Bruce Willis as the main character. Not just as the voice, but the character also has his likeness. Willis plays Trey Kincaid, a former student of a man known only as the Reverend, a scientist who has managed to gain power over the world based on his claims of an impending apocalypse. To ensure his apocalypse, he creates his four horsemen: Death, Plague, War and Beast. Kincaid is the only one who can stop him, but he is imprisoned on Paradise Island for breaking the Reverend's laws. He's sentenced to death and thrown in a cell to await said sentence, but he smuggled a weapon and then blows his way out of his cell, leading into level 1, prison. The game is a simple shooter game. Move with the left stick and shoot with the right stick or face buttons in the directions you want to shoot. I can also jump. My basic machine gun has infinite ammo. I also start with 3 smart bombs that cover a wide distance. To begin with, I'm just getting basic guards with their slow green shots. After kicking a switch to open the door, I also get explosive barrels to wipe them out with. After the second door is even more explosive toxic waste barrels. Soon I pick up one of my temporary weapons, the particle beam. It fires a constant beam in a straight line that's stronger than my machine gun. The next door leads me onto a big catwalk while the warden shows up on the screens to threaten me to surrender. They also try blowing holes in the catwalk, but at least the exploding parts were politely marked ahead of time for me. I take out a group hiding behind a long window and keep going. As I end up moving sideways, I get platforms rising up with their own easily killed guard on top. Soon after I head into the next room where I'm manoeuvring around searchlights that burn me on contact, but I get through without touching any and drop down to another catwalk. Got a bit of jumping to do before I reach the next room containing a lever that when pulled causes a huge explosion that opens up all the cells and lets out all the prisoners. I presume they've all been mutated by the Reverend as they want me dead for this and try to attack me. Once I've burned them all down, the door opens. Then it's more guards before I press the switch for the next door. Got some faint lasers to jump over so I can reach the switch for the next door. Then once again for the next room, putting me back on catwalks. As I grab the homing missiles, we get one of the most repeated voice lines in the game.
Strap one on, it's time to jam!
What does that even mean? He has a lot of repeated lines, but this one always stood out to me. The homing missiles do as you'd expect and kill these guys in a single shot. After more catwalks and jumping across these platforms, the next weapon I grab is the Rip Laser. It feels almost identical to the particle beam, but purple and not on fire. I jump on this one platform off to the side and go on a long detour across them all to get an extra life at the end. It did lose me a lot of health though. After that I return to the main route and go to the next room. This one has me running forward a little while prisoners come out of the walls at me. What follows is me jumping up a series of platforms while guards shoot at me from the catwalks in the background. Once I make it to the top, I'm doing it again, but descending. At this point I'm very cautious because I can't take many more shots, but it still doesn't keep me alive. I was checkpointed about 15 seconds away though, so it's not a big loss. I make it to the bottom and run through the door to reach the boss, a huge tank. I also grab the Pulse Laser, which is a powered up machine gun. The tank mainly moves around spewing fire at me. It also fires missiles, but not very well. I just walk side to side, following it and shooting it. Only close to death does it actually consider moving towards me, but by then it's too late and I destroy it. I run through the final door to finish the level. The game takes account of the many enemies I killed, but the percentage means nothing, isn't recorded and doesn't get you anything, so I pay no attention to it. Kincaid takes a speeder bike thing down a tunnel, but it breaks and sends him flying into level 2, sewers. As soon as I land, sewer people rise up from the water for me to kill. As I head forward and drop lower down, I grab my first flamethrower on the way. I should hope I don't have to explain what this does. As I head further down, I end up in a slightly more open room than I'm used to as the camera zooms back a million miles. At the other end is a corridor, but first next to it is a series of platforms on the wall I can climb to grab an extra life. I can also grab the rockets here before I go through the corridor and land in more sewer water. The rockets are a simple straight shot that deal a lot of damage and I use it to blast down the gate in front of me so I can move forward. I keep running forward, taking out more mutants and blowing up another gate until the camera moves back behind me to show mines in the water that the rockets destroy with no issue. I'm next dropped into an octagonal room with more mutants coming after me and flames shooting from walls. Once I kill them all I can blow open the path forward, leading to me jumping over more flamethrowers. At the end it drops me down into a wider path with thicker flames, including some coming from the ceiling. At the end I get a choice of 2 routes to platform across. I take the right route and after a few jumps, an impossible to predict rockfall lands on me and reduces me from full health to almost nothing. I just have to keep going, watching out for the guys in the distance throwing bombs at me. As I get further, more rocks start dropping and so now I have to watch out for those as I'm jumping along too. But my health was too low and I die. I was checkpointed at the beginning of this rock dropping section though, so it isn't a huge loss. At the end is this huge hole where I have to lower myself down it by jumping down the platforms sticking out of the walls. It goes so deep I end up above lava as I enter another cave. It drops me into a pit against a load of giant rats. The rip laser tears through them and I move on by blowing up the boulders blocking an exit to the north. I get another fork and I go right again, pitting me against more giant rats and falling rocks as I blow up everything in this tunnel. Next up I'm jumping across platforms above lava and then platforms that fall after standing on them until I end up back in the sewer water. I have more falling rocks and mines to deal with as I reach the end and am suddenly running with the water flow instead of against it. This sees me dodging several flamethrowers while moving towards them at high speed. After 3 segments of this, I get dropped into the boss arena. There's a giant crocodile I can only shoot when it gets above the water to try and bite me. This is simple, I just run around firing in its direction and it will get hurt eventually. I also use up all my smart bombs to speed things up. As it takes more damage, I also get mutants and mines dropping in around the arena, but it doesn't matter as it is killed soon after and I have cleared level 2. Kincaid escapes the sewers into a women's showers and he actually makes a nice polygons joke. Out in the streets he sees a news report on him, broadcasting gameplay footage of the first level. So he gets running, leading to level 3, City. We somehow wound up several floors high in the building when a helicopter comes by and shoots through all the windows. I drop out the window, run forward a little and jump right into lava and die. I'm not having that so early, so I quit and restart the level. Next time I make that easy jump and get running through the streets burning up cops or the army. In this level we hear a lot of licensed music in very short loops, along with music videos showing on the big TVs. When I do the music ranking, which is the next video, these licensed songs won't be included for obvious reasons. A building collapses and blocks my path forward, so I have to jump down to another road. Vehicles fly by and blow holes in the road that lead to more lava, but the game is generous and lets me jump off of the hole in the first couple seconds after the explosion. We also have little tanks to blow up as well. The cops will yell things out when you kill them too, some begging not to be killed as they have a wife and kids. But what stood out to me are the ones screaming, "My arm!" right after they explode into several pieces. I blast open a few glass walls and jump down to another road where I can choose to go right or left. I choose the left path which has me taking on several tanks while a helicopter tries to shoot me from above. Once I reach the end, I blow up on another wall and get the tank boss from level 1 dropping out of the sky and taking me on, but I just ignore it and jump down to another street. It doesn't work as 2 more of these tanks smash through the houses and block my path. They don't have the health they had as bosses, so I blow one up, run around it and jump down to another road again. I get another tank smashing through a building and approaching me while another also drops from the sky. I don't last too long and both of their flamethrowers bring me down. Next time I die trying to run around the 2 tanks just before them again. Third time I try running around the big tank but that doesn't work either. I decide to just quit and start again after that. I make it back and this time I manage to destroy the smaller tank. This lets me hang back at a distance and slowly plink away at the big tank's health until it is destroyed too. I can then run behind it and wonder how high this city must be if I'm constantly jumping downwards after every corner. Got several lava pits to jump over while helicopters constantly fly by to try and bomb me. This goes on for a while and starts to get a little dull until I reach the end and now I'm platforming across floating taxis above a huge lava river. One of them starts moving as soon as I land on it, leaving this helicopter to miss me and keep shooting down its own allies until the taxi crashes and I'm back on the ground. It's not long until the road is just gone and I have to climb along the side of the buildings. I ignore the cops and just keep running right until I drop down to another road and take on another tank. But my homing missiles get confused between the tank and all the cops I skipped, so I have to use them all up so I can hit the tank with my normal machine gun. Once it's done, I head behind it into an area where the entire floor starts breaking apart and I get dropped into lava and die. This time I slowly advance forward so I can actually make out what parts are going to be safe to stand on before I can get jumping to the end. This leads into a narrower section where the ground is breaking apart. Of course, at one point the entire section I'm standing on collapses and I end up dying again. Next time I make it to the end of that path and onto another that's already collapsed so I don't have to worry about bullshit deaths. When I reach the end of this, I'm wondering how fucking long this level really is. I end up taking on 2 more tanks while a helicopter flies around above. It's not too bad as the rip laser can auto-target the copters and bring them down. Once both tanks are destroyed, the entire building behind them collapses and opens up a lift that when I enter, finishes the level. The first 2 levels were perfectly fine, but this one got on my nerves for how long and repetitive it was. We get a couple moments of Kincaid blindly firing at cops that feels like it goes on forever until his lift reaches a lab. He meets up with another scientist, Larry. Kincaid accidentally reminds him that he's dead, and Larry remembers that the Reverend transformed him into one of his horsemen, leading to level 4, Death. Death has this lightning coming out of him, but I just stand back in the distance out of its range and shoot him. He'll also send glowing green zombies at me. I pick up the grenade launcher which has terrible range and very low ammo. This is a very easy boss, especially with the constant weapon spawns happening. I take about 40% of his health when he makes the back half of the room collapse before he moves into another room. At this point he swings his scythe arm to send a wave of puny projectiles towards me, but then I grab a nearby grenade launcher and in a few seconds take that remaining 60%, killing him. But Death has set the lab to explode, leading to Kincaid escaping by jumping out a window and landing on a roof. He doesn't get long to rest though, as he's already been chased again. Level 5, Rooftops. I generally have a lot more space to move around in here than I did in level 3. I'm running across the roofs and jumping over the gap between them. We start with more returning enemies, the cops and little tanks. I cross a bridge and drop down to activate a lever controlling a lift and take on a cop manning a turret. I ride the lift up and get attacked by cops with jetpacks, but they aren't very durable. I jump further down to another roof where I can climb across wires to more roofs. I run forward a bit until I cross a long bridge that explodes behind me. Keep running forward and jump to the next roof for a mini boss, another helicopter. It drops a load of mines around the roof and I very stupidly run into many of them in a row. But what I can do is make it stay above the mines and shoot them so they blow up on the copter and take it out. It crashes into a skyscraper and makes it drop down to create a bridge to the next roof. This one has me avoiding searchlights before I jump to the next one and take on more jetpack cops. Following the roof leads to a catwalk that goes off in 4 directions. I take the right path and run along the outside of the roof, taking on little tanks. At the end there's a bridge that tries to trick me into running into a gap halfway through, but I react in time. The roof it leads to has another lever to trigger another lift. It takes me higher up to more easy cops and another bridge to cross. It's a long one to a small roof leading to another bridge with a gap in it. At the next roof I stop to take out the build up of flying cops I'd been ignoring. Then it's another long bridge that ends with me having built up another large following of flying cops. Afterwards I have another long wire to climb across and then a fork, but both lead to the same place. I choose to go right and climb across another wire to the next roof. I take out another helicopter and the next wire is in the far back corner. I wonder if the music video playing across from me is meant to distract from the fact that Kincaid isn't even holding onto the wire he's supposedly climbing across. There's yet another wire around the corner, and this one shows how goofy the wire animation is when looked at from the side. Yet another wire in the next corner, but this time I slide down it. I end up surrounded by enemies, but a smart bomb deals with them all. I try to jump onto the next wire, but I'm a fucking idiot and miss by miles. That sent me back quite a bit. Next time I get the wire, and guess what? I had died right before the next checkpoint. I now have a series of bridges to jump between, some of which explode behind me as I cross them. I land on one platform and it falls from under my feet. I don't react quick enough and die, falling through the world. Next time I just ignore the enemies and keep running and jumping. Then comes a series of falling platforms and even more exploding bridges before I'm doing it all again but with a sideways view. On the roof at the end I smart bomb the following I'd built up and ride another wire down to the next roof. Then another wire leads to a roof with a lever bringing down a lift. I ride it up to get on a bridge and face the level's boss. It's another helicopter, but this time I have to constantly run towards the screen while shooting it. I reach the next roof, which is a dead end. I run back and forth throwing out all my smart bombs and doing quite a bit of damage, but his shots are stronger and faster than mine, so it brings me down. Next time I get some homing missiles and hang out of its range so it can't hit me. I take out a third of its health right there. I get close again but it kills me once more. Next time I learn it can't hit me while I'm in the air, so I keep jumping while firing and eventually bring down the boss. This one I'd say was a little too long as well, but at least it was more enjoyable and far less bullshit than the city. Kincaid hides in front of a giant screen with the president reporting a fake story about the Reverend being dead and claiming that Kincaid is responsible. He has to hide, so he decides the best place to not be seen by anyone is in a nightclub inside a graveyard run by his ex-girlfriend. This starts level 6, Graveyard. I enter through the gate and blow up a giant cross so I can climb to a higher level. Kincaid called his ex Warped for opening a club here, but I don't see him being any less disrespectful. I don't know if the enemies here are zombies or just clubbers, but they're throwing explosive shit at me so I burn them. I climb onto a tomb and jump across to a series of wooden bridges. Oh yeah, and there's wolf things too. I'm only a minute into the level and wondering how big this graveyard is supposed to be. At the end of the bridge I have some rotating platforms to jump across as if this is Bruce Willis's Crash Bandicoot or something. But being precise with these small platforms isn't a simple task in this game. When I get to the top I destroy another cross and climb it up to another section. I don't know why a graveyard or a nightclub has a green river with whirlpools in it, but I cross it to the other side and deal with more rotating platforms. I climb a couple floors of bridges to reach a rock held by a giant crane that lifts me to the next part of the graveyard. There's an extra life just out in the open here and I jump across more tombs through a bridge that leads to a cave where coffins rise up like in Medieval. I just run and jump past them all and smart bomb the wolves after them until I end up back outside. A little bit further is this building with a switch by the door. Pressing the switch will make the door very slowly open and I have to keep killing the zombies as they try to get to the switch and turn it off, which makes me start the entire thing from the beginning. After a couple minutes it gets close, but there's always the one zombie that I don't notice. It happens once again and I've been at it so long my health has been whittled down and the bomb kills me. Next time I finally get that door open and rush in to clear the level before the remaining zombie ruins everything. After 2 really long levels, it was nice to have one that was a little shorter. Kincaid watches Mary finish her song and meets her backstage. It seems they're still on good terms. But as she voices her increasingly violent fantasies out loud, Kincaid realises she has also been transformed into one of the 4 horsemen. Level 7, Plague. Plague will hang around her stage, jumping around and firing heart-shaped explosive rings at me, along with somehow causing shockwaves to approach from both ends of the arena. I just move along with her while firing and using the smart bombs when she gets close. Once I reduce her to half health, her disco ball will lower into the middle of the arena and start firing a rotating laser. Get a few more shots in and it starts a second laser before disappearing and chunks of the arena explode. My platform gets closer to the stage and I have to jump onto it before the platform drops. She'll now chase me around leaving an acid trail, but it doesn't do her much good and I take the rest of her health. The next cutscene suddenly jumps us to a factory where Kincaid threatens its CEO, who is providing weapons to the president. He escapes to a lower floor, starting level 8, War Factory. I drop in and take down the first 2 robots I see. What follows is a stretch of me running down this winding path, jumping over electric barriers while avoiding most of the robots because they take too long to kill. Followed by jumping some gaps without being knocked into a pit and then dropping down a hole and moving to avoid all the lasers on the way down. I end up dying while triggering a checkpoint when I hit the bottom. In this room I have to kill many robots, so I just run in a circle constantly firing until they're all dead. This makes the floor open up and drop me into a tunnel. Once again I avoid most of the robots and just follow the path to the next room. In the corner is a lift and it starts a sequence of jumping between these platforms and running across catwalks to the next platforms, with the same robots close by shooting at me. Once I reach the blue platform at the top, it triggers another lift down below to rise up towards me and take me with it. As it moves up, I have more robots dropping down that I have no choice but to kill thanks to the confined space I'm in. It puts me in another robot-filled corridor. After taking out all the robots to remove the first roadblock, I have a sequence of moving floors over a pit and then another lift that has me going through lasers with me needing to time my jumps right. Then it takes me through some rooms with robots and flying cops to deal with too, with a laser at the end. Then the third one has me dealing with both at the same time, but I jump without thinking and die when the platform moves on without me. I get past it next time and do some more jumping to another lift. It drops me in front of some robots that drop an extra life when killed, but as I move forward, the floor opens up to reveal a massive lava pit below me. So what this means is a very long platforming segment across many small moving platforms and jumping across wires, and it is quite nerve-wracking. I never truly felt safe with any of my jumps due to how long I'm in the air and how small the platforms are. Then we get the point where about 6 robots, all on their own moving platforms, come down and shoot at me at once. They start to dodge with such little space and I get killed. Then we get some bullshit where I reach the end of one of the wires and it just dips me past the platforms and into the lava. Next time I make it past the robots and landing on the last platform has another appear, and I seem to be going back through these rooms in reverse, but now with flying cops bothering me. It leads me up to another tunnel leading to a room that's all quickly ascending and descending blocks. More robots drop down and I have to deal with them all, but I get killed here and get my first game over. I get back having already lost 3 lives to that bullshit with the wire and the lava, but this time I destroy the robots. This opens up a hole down to another platform and next to it a lift going down. During this I have a rip laser to deal with a shitload of flying cops with. After a long journey, the lift reaches another lift that takes me to the exit finally. I'd say this was my least favourite level in the game. It's fine about 80% of the time, but that platforming over lava section just really drags it down. Kincaid shoots down the fleeing CEO and inspects the rubble, knowing that he is the third of the horsemen. Level 9, War. To start with, I have to destroy the still functioning turrets on top of the CEO's plane and it explodes to reveal War. He's surrounded by fire, so I just hang back for a bit and shoot him, also using my spark bombs. Once the fire goes, when I get close he'll try to cut me with a lightsaber. Eventually he'll get fed up and start firing a laser at me. He'll grow huge and start chasing me towards the screen. I just have to keep my distance, keep shooting, and make sure I don't fall in the lava. I make the mistake of going back for a pickup and he gets too close, resulting in an instant kill. Next time I keep running, but he still closes in. But with these explosive barrels that when shot will make him fall on his face and give you the chance to widen the gap again. I keep this up, but after a certain point he'll punch the floor and leave me running over narrow ground above lava. Here I just have to keep jumping back and shooting while the game keeps giving me rockets, but this doesn't last forever. I miss too many shots and reach the end of the road, resulting in another death. But next time I'm a bit more accurate with my shots and I get him. Kincaid can sense the last horseman at the White House, leading to level 10, the White House. We have the return of the cops and some turrets shooting me. Just a little bit further is a gate to blow up. The second section is more of the same but with some helicopters. The third section is a little longer, with walls of cover for the enemies, and it turns around a bend. The fourth segment is another path going around a bend, but with few enemies and searchlights going all over. At the end I can see the White House, but it's surrounded by lava. To get to the building I just have to jump across some rocks and then run right around the outside, climbing higher and avoiding fire from helicopters and turrets on each corner. I die when I jump over a turret and it guns me down while I'm dealing with the next one. I get past it next time, but a helicopter shoots out the ground under me and I fall into lava. The next time, Bruce refuses to grab the first ledge I jump for and falls in. But next time I get over the gap I dropped in 2 lives ago and keep moving, only for it to happen again. Next time I keep going and make it to the next corner, but I get caught on a pillar and shot to death. Game over. On my first life next time, he refuses to grab the ledge again. Then I get killed by a turret again. Even hiding behind cover doesn't work. What I start to do is hide away from turrets and use a smart bomb to blow them up without having to get near them. At this point I see there was an extra life hidden out of view back at the beginning of this section. I move around the corner and I've done a full lap around the building, but I get gunned down in seconds by a turret. This time I grab that extra life now I know it's there. That last turret is a nightmare in this cramped space with homing missiles, so I just jump over it and climb even higher onto the roof. I run around being chased by helicopters until I do another full lap and I blow open a hole leading inside. Now I have to run through the hallways with more cops shooting me and helicopters shooting through the windows. This time the cops have rocket launchers and force fields placed randomly around. I reach the end of the hallway and a helicopter blasts away at the wall, making me jump back and forth shooting it until it falls and explodes, making another hole for me to drop through. As I move forward, the floor starts exploding to reveal more lava pools. I jump just a little bit too short and land in one of them. Sadly there was no checkpoint, so I have to go through the helicopter again. Then the same thing happens and I game over again. 7 minutes later I'm back and I actually cross these simple jumps this time. Turns out the White House is hiding a huge cave with miniature volcanoes inside. I have to keep running and jumping to the right, ignoring all the fireballs, even jumping over erupting volcanoes. At the end is another hallway leading to the end of the level. This level I'm very mixed on. Scaling the exterior of the White House was one of the worst parts of the game for me, but everything else in the level was perfectly fine. Kincaid confronts the president and as expected, he is the final horseman. Time for the final boss, level 11, the Beast. He starts off stood in the back of the room firing a fast moving laser that follows me, so I just jump around shooting him. His other move is to throw fireballs with explosions that linger on screen for a few seconds, but it's not long before I empty his life bar and he destroys the office, leaving behind a much bigger arena. He repeats his same moveset and I empty his life bar again in no time. He follows up with a jump creating a shockwave and he gets a much bigger life bar. Now he starts running around and creating shockwaves with every step. As he loses health, he jumps around more and breaks chunks off the arena that split off into their own smaller platforms. By the time I empty his third life bar, there are 5 of these platforms, but at this point he kills me. No checkpoints by the way, got to do the entire fight in one go. It turns out that when his next life bar fills, a health refill drops down, so I missed out on a heal last time by seconds. Now I just hang back on one of the platforms and keep shooting while he repeats old moves. Eventually he'll jump onto the platform and jump back. I don't realise until it's too late that I was actually sinking it and I die again. But next time I now know, so I make sure to jump to the next platform. Then he takes down the second and I just barely make the jump to a third. I get him to so low health, but when he goes for this platform too, I jump too early and land in the lava. Then the next time I'm killed by one of his shockwaves. Then I miss a jump yet again. It takes me 11 minutes and 3 more attempts to finally empty that life bar. He gets one more life bar and leaves me just the centre and a single other platform to fight him on. But once again he just repeats all pans without the shockwaves, so it's easier and I finally defeat the guy and finish the game. The beast continues to shrink until he explodes to reveal that the president was actually the Reverend all along. While dying he says that a man who battles demons is doomed to become one and his essence transfers over to Kincaid as he delivers the final shots. And the game ends on Kincaid's eyes turning red and the Reverend's voice coming out of his mouth. And that's all because this game didn't get a sequel. Apocalypse is a fine run and gun game. It definitely has some annoying parts and a lot of levels could definitely do with being a couple minutes shorter, plus you will get really tired of the same Bruce Willis voice clips playing endlessly. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't get some enjoyment out of it. But when I say it's fine, that's it, it's just fine. At the time of writing this I haven't determined its final spot yet on the ranking, but it's most likely going to be around the 70s, with the other just decent games. But like many other games I've covered before it, I'm just glad to get closure on another game I couldn't beat as a kid.